Hi, thanks for coming. All right, we love Print Fair, and we always rejoice at having an artist come because it gives us a chance to really dig in a little bit and figure something out about somebody we don't know a lot about prior. Before we start, Amy, I just wanted to thank Doreen, the director, as you know, Jay, who introduced, Rena, who's the head of our department, and of course Ben, for all of their hard work and support going forward with the Print Fair. It's a labor of love for all of us. And also wanted to lend my thanks to the PDPS for sponsoring this program, and particularly to call out Betsy Cumming and Susie Hill, who are the co-chairs of the Print Fair from that end of things. So big kudos to them. And also to thank Amy for coming down. She has a sinus infection and thought about canceling 3 days ago, and I'm so grateful that she showed up. That would have been really a pickle. And also to say that several dealers in the fair will have her work for sale, so take a peek when you're in there over the weekend. The Print Fair is open Saturday 11 to 6 and Sunday 12 to 6. There's lots of stuff also going on around town. We've gotten all of those things listed together in one place, easy for you, with a map and a calendar together at a website that's baltimoreprintcity.com, so check that out. We're going to talk for about an hour, probably a little less, and I think we're going to forego questions at the end, but we'll be around. If you have a burning question, come up to us at the end and fire away. All right. So I put together some slides, probably too many. Who can resist? There's Amy in her studio, surrounded by her brushes and those figurines, which will come into play later. And we're going in chronological order. It's a survey of her work going back to 2001. So I'm just going to ask Amy to start talking about the works as they come along.
Okay, this one is called Marisol, and it's from 2001. I did a series of pencil drawings. I was in between studios, and it just made sense to actually go small at the time. And when I was doing these drawings, it was more to make a catalog of the characters that I had been using. So this one in particular, I had been very interested in Edwardian dress at the time, and corsets and things like that, and its relationship to the architecture of the time. So this one is investigating the hoop skirt and using that area underneath, because it is like a mysterious amount of space that we don't know what the use is for. You know? So here she is. She's coaxing the birds into her little cage there.
What a private world under there.
Yeah.
In more ways than one. I love this one. It's called Tiger Mending, and the women are reselling those stripes back on, or mending?
No, that's the real line.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, this one is a reaction to a Persian miniature that, I don't know if you want to flash that.
There it is.
Yeah. So I was looking at this painting, and Akbar. This is from 1590 or around that time, and basically it's a dispute over territory. The tigress is defending the land that her cubs are on, and Akbar comes in, the big brave guy, and slashes the tigers. So I was dealing with the aftermath of that sort of thing. And originally, this was an etching. So you can actually...
Oh, the etching came first.
The etching came first.
Huh.
And, which is interesting, because we're
Yeah.
here at the Print Fair. And so I actually had you can see up on the top, there's Akbar with his saber, and that is how it started.
And you printed this with ULAE, right?
No, this was actually the
Oh,
Lower East Side print
right.
shop. I had it was like a residency there, and I did a suite of, I think it's 3 or 4. I'm kind of having a yeah,
a sinus
3 or
moment.
4. Yeah, and then this one, this is called Realignment, and the interesting thing that happened after Tiger Mending was that I was paired with the author Amy Bender, who is one of my favorite authors, and a Black Book, which is a magazine, contacted Amy and gave her the choice to write about, you know, several different artists, and she chose this painting. And I was thrilled because usually it's the artist sort of illustrating the story, but here was my favorite author describing what's happening in my, so she wrote a story called Tiger Mending based on my painting, and excuse me, so this Tiger Mending was 2003, and this came about in 2009, and it was kind of funny because I was just going through my sketchbook, and I came across this little pencil drawing of women reattaching stripes, and I was like, oh, why don't I make a painting of this? And I thought, like, wow, you know, and I'm making the painting, and then I had the chance, I was going to do a project with Amy again, so I reread the story, and I realized that I had taken that from her story. So it was kind of funny how it cycled back. Because in her story, there was a line about realigning the stripes as if there were loose pieces of electrical tape. So that's what that's based on.
And in your work in general, it's women, there are no men.
There's a sprinkling.
A sprinkling of men. And usually the women are working together in a cohesive team to get something done.
Yes.
Right? That seems to be a theme.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fascinating world. They're just sort of trotting along in their everyday task. It's really, I think they're really great. Ah, here's a close-up of that realignment there.
So this is much earlier. This is 2002. And this is actually, the previous paintings you have seen have been gouache on paper. And this is casein. This is a wood panel that's about 4 feet long, and
there's a close-up.
Flash, and well, yeah, it's kind of difficult to see, but the idea behind this painting was based on years in primary school with my sitting like this with my head on the desk, inhaling that smell of Clorox. And because when we'd come in from recess, or if the children were rowdy, they'd always tell us to put our heads down. And I just remember that like fog of the glasses and the smell of the cleaners, and just an enormous amount of time passing. So, so if you go to the detail, the lower level, these are the people with they're all girls with their heads on the desk, and the time passing is noted by how fast their hair is, not fast, but there's big spools of hair on the second floor.
Oh, sorry.
It's like a 19th century factory, and so the hair notates how much time has passed. So they're just waiting, and the hair is growing, and it's being collected on top. So that's like a marker of time.
Okay.
And then, now the full, and they're also waiting for their time to pull the house.
They're waiting their turn.
Yes, they're waiting.
And so, wait, let's go back to the hole. There's the hole.
Yeah, so, and then there's some girls up front peeking through the windows, waiting, you know, they're like, okay, we're next, you know.
Where are they going?
I'm not sure. You know? But they're moving forward. They're in it together.
Moving forward.
I guess it's like that, what were we doing when our heads were down? It's like this lost time. And so it's this abyss that they're walking into. I'm making this up right now.
That's when some of the best nuggets of stuff come out. I've always wondered where those women are pulling that house. It's crazy. All right.
No, you know what? No, actually, okay, the title is Traction, and this is where things come out too, is that I always have like, usually there's like, the title is one word and it has a double meaning. And I was thinking about this, traction. It's a very weird scene. My grandfather had an easy chair with little pulleys above, and I never knew what they were about, and it was for traction. He apparently, and I never saw him use them, but they were there on the ceiling. So he used to like, I never saw this, but you know when people are in traction, they do something. So the pulling came from my grandfather having these wheels above that I never saw, but I was, why does he have wheels on the ceiling above his easy chair? you know? So that's where the tugging came from.
Okay.
And traction, yeah.
Makes sense.
Because why is it called traction?
Right, there you go.
That was the question that we didn't investigate.
Yeah, so do things just sort of pop fully formed in your brain? Like you...
Never. No.
Yeah, okay. So how does that work?
It's the dance. It's like the romance of the painting. While I'm making it, things reveal themselves, and that's what keeps me engaged. I know the composition, and I let it unroll by itself.
Did you Ben reminded me that you told us that you start with the faces?
Yes. I start with the faces first because, like, I'll have the composition. Now we're talking just about the work on paper. Like this one is on paper, and I always center in on the faces first. I'll have like a ghost-like pencil drawing, but I always fill out the faces because I need to become acquainted with the personalities of the characters in the painting, because their personalities dictate the way they hold their body and that sort of thing, and also the way they dress.
Do women reoccur, or do they carry through from one scene to another?
I don't think I've really held. I think there, in general, there are similarities, but I don't have like someone that is, unless it's an inanimate object, which sometimes I replace the head with something, then that will be very distinct. But I think of it more like as a colony of these women existing somewhere, and it's limitless, the members. So, yeah.
All right, so tell us about waiters.
So sometimes, when you say where do the ideas come from, sometimes I'm stuck, or I'm dealing with a situation where, and I don't remember what year this was from, but I was really, do you know?
I think it's 2003.
Oh, it says right there. Okay, numbers.
Okay.
So for a really long time, so sometimes I would just have like, a straight line of things happening. To me, the paper, the space is like a stage, and there was a row of people, and it was really bothering me that I wasn't actually entering the page or the composition. So this was like a literal like split and divide, and at the time in 2003, I was really into looking at military uniforms and different things, and this was actually something early 20th century, the amphibious troop, and it was a very unsuccessful troop, but it actually existed. They had these inner tubes, and they were like waiters, and they were with an inner tube, and it was very inspiring. So.
Let's see. Oh, this is one of my favorites.
And this was inspired by a Pina Bausch performance I had seen, and it was just one solo dancer. I believe she didn't have, I think she was nude, and she had some hair extension, and she's whipping it around, and it was this sound that was so incredible, and I took that back to the studio, and I was like, that's what that's the difference between 2D and dance, and what's missing in what I'm making. And so what I wanted to do was make a painting about luring in sound, sort of like Marisol. It's, again, with the birds. And for a while I was using a lot of birds, and for me they represented migrating thoughts. So these women, they're kind of like street hawkers. And I was thinking of, in China where they have these sticks, and everything is sort of weighed down there. All the bird cages are empty, which, what bird is going to fly into a cage? It doesn't really make any sense, but that's the idea of like the absence of noise.
Okay.
And then the costume, I'm really interested in textiles, and I have many books, and anytime I'm traveling I try to go to a folk art or textile museum of some sort. And so this in particular, this is where I borrowed the peacock from, and this is so you can see my references are really kind of, I don't really copy when I use textiles, I kind of take something and translate it, just use it as, so this is the peacock, and then it went back into, and I was sort of thinking more of like a Ukrainian dance or a procession.
This, when we were made a studio visit in the fall, Amy pulled out a couple of books, and this was one of them, which I snapped a quick shot of while she wasn't looking, just to sort of give myself a recollection that there were just books everywhere that of every conceivable sort, and they seemed to all have something in them that was getting drawn into the work. Oh, the snowmen.
The snowmen.
Yeah, there's some men there. There's snowmen.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So this was inspired by another painting called Four Snowmen, and it's about losing your significant other, and based on, this was the same grandfather, he was dying of cancer, and I was thinking about my grandmother when they met. I think they were around 19, he went to the war, so that's also 2003, 2004, I was deep into the military uniform, so the shirt of the snowman comes around like the band of identifying the group that the person is from. And so each snowman is in a different stage of melting. And they're just sort of watching, the woman in the front is totally melted. She's just carrying the bucket. And then one of them, I think, is, maybe it's the other. They're just, I think in the other painting there's, the woman's using the sticks to reanimate the shirt,
Oh gosh.
It's kind of depressing.
That is a depressing
yeah.
one. But these are large drawings. How big are these?
This is, I think the width is 66 inches, so.
It's a big piece of paper, and there's a lot of white space for all you guys in the front row there. Yeah, but in this case, it's sort of just emanates snow, which is perfect,
Mm-hmm.
But there's often not a setting at all. Oh, this one's a fun story.
Yeah. Okay. This was a commission by the New York Times Tea Style magazine. It was Fashion Week, and they assigned me with to do a piece about Prada. They just said, do what you do, and here's Prada's lookbook. So I paged through it, and the theme, it was kind of like, I was reading it as like funerary, everything was like over dye, it was like florals that were dipped in dye, and everything was very heavy and somber. But then I'm going through and I come across in the accessories, they have these, actually the woman near the rear of the elephant is wearing these cherry red platform stilettos, which really kind of threw me off. And then so that actually made, that was the turning point for me in how I could enter the painting, using this brand that's so luxurious and everything. So my idea was to embody the feeling of wearing these stilettos, and so that's how I came up. The elephant balancing on these little spindly, and they're cushioned, because I hear Prada shoes are very comfortable, and so and in all these, I love, one of my favorite ad campaigns is the Hermes ads. They're like always going on these safaris and these journeys to nowhere, and these women only wear these things once or twice, and so it's just like thinking about where these three women went. So I took the whole line and chose my favorite coats, and then with the ones that I cared less about, I made the little Prada dumplings on the pillow, and then the elephant is carrying their bags in the trunk, because I wanted to include everything. Yeah.
So then it ran in the magazine, or what did they do with it?
Yeah, it ran in, and there was 3 or 4 other artists, and they were also like over Chanel, and I think Robin O'Neill did Chanel with her men in tracksuits, so she did that, and so this was, yeah. This is Cake Toss, 2004. This is actually my first, this was a 10 color lithograph, which to me at the time, I mean, I'm over it now, but it felt like a never-ending coloring book because I really didn't understand the separations and going back and forth, and it just felt like I was drawing the same thing over and over. Well, I did this on Mylar, or is it it's called something else, but it's not Mylar, but it's something Demo. Do you know anyone? Demroll, yeah. It's just frosted plastic paper that accepts the pencil. But so I'm drawing the whole thing in pencil, but you have to imagine the colors because you don't really get into the color aspect of it until you're proofing it. So it just felt like a never-ending process. And the reason why I say this because you didn't even want. I mean, you didn't. you chose a painting that related to this, and I don't know if you. So this is interesting just for printmaking. And it was a breakthrough for me because I simultaneously was doing a painting of cake toss because I was so confused about the color. So I was like, let me do the same thing at the same time. And it just didn't work at all. But I ended up cutting the other one in half and doing two different things. But the story behind this is totally different. This is about an accumulation of misspent time, I suppose. This is the cakes represent, celebrations. So all these women are coming into the forest with their cakes and then dumping them on this pile. And the tree is grown, but there's a cabin upside down just to represent something that's gone wrong. So no, it was about a bad relationship, really, and it was like looking at the calendar and like, why did I stay this long? You just realizing at different points, like, oh my God, look at this pile, time to go, and and then knowing that it's you got to move on and look at all these women around you. It's something you just do, you got to go. Yeah. And this is about lies. And the one woman is getting her, well, actually it's the only dress that has a head. And it has a very long tongue in it.
Oh, yeah.
And she's ironing it out. So it's a little bit like a Pinocchio situation, but a little more painful.
And sometimes the objects like the ironing boards are physically part of the figure, like the teapot on the head. We'll get to those. Teapot head, or there's one with a girl who has oars for hands, and she's got a sort of boat. But this one, there's sort of apparatuses that are strapped too.
Yeah. And I don't know what to say about this.
Moving right along.
Some things are just and some things are like, I could pinpoint the time in my life. 2006, for instance, Plotline. I looked this up. I was 32 at the time, and I was about to buy an apartment, and this was a big deal because I guess I had I wasn't married. I didn't have children. I wanted something like I've come far or something. And yeah, real estate meant that to me at the time.
In New York, it does.
Yeah. And then so this is about going to an open house as an artist and trying to present yourself as a viable earning person, which doesn't really exist because they want to know about your paychecks and all these kind of things. So in this painting, the women are wearing like the little black dress that you'd wear to a cocktail party or whatever. So you have small talk. Not that I didn't do that much at the open houses, but I was thinking about it like this. And so the women have on their backs are saplings, and it's just very straightforward. They're looking for a place to plant it.
Got it.
And it's sort of like a game of musical chairs. It's like a hot potato, and they're circling, because the more you go to these open houses, you realize that you're up against the same exact people. So, yeah.
Was this your first foray into an installation?
I dabbled in college. I did some things I did some fabric pieces with dresses, and I actually did, this is made out of hydrocal, and I actually did do some hydrocal pieces. This was a program at the Reina Sofia in Madrid, and it was called Productions, and they invited me to do an on-site project, but the stipulation was it had to be something different from when I can't just come and hang up I had to break new ground. But it's funny because the curator was like, I see you drawing on the walls. Like she had a plan. But I immediately responded to the architecture because there was vaulted ceilings and this marble floor, and it was this gorgeous space. And the history was it was a mental hospital, like the first one in Spain that treated mental issues separate from physical, you know, so it was like a breakthrough. And so what I did, I made 6 prototypes in plasticine, and then I had them cast in hydrocal, which is a lot like, it's like a fine cement or a very strong plaster, somewhere in between there. And I painted their faces. And there's 160 pieces altogether. And the idea behind this, we don't have an aerial shot, but the women on top are unraveling. They're winding up cotton string around their, just like this, around their arms.
Is it related to that?
Oh, yes. So this is the basic, this is the first drawing of the idea, is that the sweater, which is the body of this woman down below, is disappearing, and it's about outsourcing and affecting people beyond us that we have no idea what's happening, like in China, the environment and the forest deforestation, that sort of thing, and it's not necessarily the fault of the people that are involved in the mindless activities. You know, it's just, yeah, it's a bigger issue.
And the women below are?
They kind of look like, I had casted sweaters, so it looked like a peanut shell. It was very weird.
Are those them on the bottom there?
Yeah, so they're half, they have no legs, basically. Because they've been
unraveled.
Yeah. They're disintegrating.
Aha.
So a hair mill, 2007. This is what the 4 lithographs are based on.
Yeah, so here they are, separated into 4.
Basically, that's exactly it. And I think this is really a continuation of traction. It's turning into a factory. That's all. Yeah, no, but you know, here, these are women, and the others was based on a childhood experience, but this is more growing of the hair and grooming it, and then it's being woven on a loom and then used as a blanket.
But this one, like, this is interesting because it's sort of, they're interconnected, and the hair sort of flows through the whole thing. It's almost a sequence that you hadn't quite done before.
Yeah, I think that's what I was going for.
And it worked. And then you separated them back out.
Yeah.
And where these were ULAE, right?
Yes.
Okay. You could find these tomorrow. Hint, hint. They are great. I always have a tiger under my skirt.
Tell me about it. Oh, it's funny. A lot of the images you selected all related to deaths in my family.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So you saw this big painting in my studio that I haven't finished since. This is, when I start a big painting, I always do a small painting, like a character study, so I have this really big painting that's been there forever, and it's like all blue fabric. So basically, this was based on King Henry VIII's camping. They would go on these big camping expeditions, and they would just set up these. That's what the idea of the tent came from. because the bigger painting is quite massive with the tents. And I think about the tiger sort of prowling through. And it was about, no, this is based on the cover of the book also. The cover that's from Norway, it was these women standing by the shore with torches, guiding the seamen back home. Yeah, in the
I believe you.
Yeah. So, but then sometimes, and that's why they also in Norway they paint the houses very brightly so they could see them, and but sometimes they don't return. So this was about the death of my stepfather and thinking about the women in my grandmother and my mom now becoming the matriarchs. So like here they are as queens and
interconnected.
Yeah, it's a lineage.
Yeah.
So where does this lead? Yeah. I don't know. It's the same topic. So this is called Summit. Also, I did this before I did a few larger paintings, and it's about reaching a point. This woman is half stone or half mountain. She's a mountain peak, and the goat here is sort of embodies the characteristic of reaching the highest point and being stubborn. So that's just
That was the beginning of the sort of series of them, because there's several in the lineup, right?
Yeah, so I had been doing pencil sketches, and so that one and this one, I was thinking about how they would, what their costumes are based on the Hill tribe, the Hill tribe. See, the Golden Triangle, the mountain. There's three cultures involved there. I won't try to name them, you know. So they are the peaks of the mountains, and this the Tibetan prayer flags entered in later, and just because I was using source material when I was looking for different kind of mountain peaks and that sort of thing, and they entered at a time where I was really frustrated with the paintings because they were just very static and boring, and it just felt like the right solution to have some like the idea of movement, because these would be moving. Sort of like bringing sound into the other painting. This is bringing air into this one.
So this was a solution to, you got stuck in the painting and
this is
let it
the
sit.
Painting I got stuck in.
Ah.
There's a bigger one called Gorge,
Okay.
which is probably 3 times as big. It's actually like a gorge in the mountain, and this is above the fjord. Yeah.
But it wasn't until the idea of the prayer flags entered that you felt like it resolved itself.
Yeah, it was like one of those
Things.
after hours moments where I started, like it was literally just putting primary colors on my brush and just attacking just going wild. Like if I did it during the day, I would be too precious about it and think about it, but if I do it after 12, it goes. And I just trust myself, because there's just something that happens late at night that I trust.
Huh.
I like that time.
But the one that's still hanging.
This one is very, it's conservative with the flags, but the other one is lots of flags.
But the painting that was hanging in the studio when we were there is waiting for this moment of something.
Yeah, it is.
It's still there, I take it.
Yeah, it is.
So you guys should be familiar with this if you've seen Alternate Realities. We just acquired this for the collection with Print Fair proceeds. Thank you very much. So this is a lithograph that she made with Tamarind, right?
Mm-hmm. Based on the paintings that we just discussed, and it was really exciting to switch over because I had been using pencil so often with the lithographs. This was stone and brush, with the touche. And it was kind of fun because with the brush, I just moved faster. And it kind of came out more, I think the feeling of this, there's more humor in it. Like, even though the other ones are very somber in their faces, I think you thought this was funny, right? Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, they're supposed to be funny. But I see it also, it has like this cartoonish feeling to it. And at the same time, I was looking at Winsor McKay, or McKay, I don't know how you want to.
I think it's Mackay.
McKay?
Yeah.
Little Nemo. I love
Oh.
the graphic quality.
I have him here somewhere. Where is
Oh,
he?
you do?
There
Okay.
he is.
Yeah. So I love his sense of line and composition and the colors, and so I have those books.
This was, we were in her studio, and she pulled out this box full of these little toys and sort of scatters them on the floor and says, that's how I
sometimes
figure out composition.
Yeah, and I should go back to using these animals because I have an endless collection of these, and if I don't know, we'll come up to the horse painting. It makes more sense, but I use them as my models all the time.
All right, here's Initiation. This is 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Turtles. What else is going on there?
Turtles and unconscious women. And
I really pick them.
and these I see these. Okay, the costumes are based on the trip to Norway I took, and this is very traditional Norwegian costume. Nothing to do with actually the structure is also something that I saw in Helsinki. But anyway, this is based on, I don't think the name really does anything for it, but it's about a biological clock. And so turtles and time sort of connect for me. And I was thinking, I think I was 35. Yeah? I don't want to get into the math, but I didn't know if I wanted to have a child or not. And it was really important to think about it at that time. So these women sort of like are mysterious midwives, and they have all sorts of tools and things hanging from their belts. And I think one of their remedies is to put a turtle on the belly. That's their method. It's initiation, I don't know. And then there's these switches of maybe they're birch leaves or something.
Strange things happen in your world.
Yeah. And it's sort of, and the reason why these blonde women are in a state of like, they're sleeping or knocked out is because I really didn't know the answer. I really didn't know if I wanted one or not.
And
I have it too natural right now. Yeah, it spoke loudly, so I'm happy.
It seems like what struck me when we first chatted was that things happen, right? Take some event, and it seems to translate, I don't know if it's instantaneous in your head, into some sort of visual representation that twists it in a way that is sort of metaphorical, or is it in a dream things come to you, or you're after a midnight moment? And
I think anxiety, I have lots of anxiety-ridden dreams, and it's very clear to me what they're about. And they are funky. But I know it's not mysterious at all, but they are wacky. And I do bring them into the work.
you keep a dream journal?
No.
No? Why did I think
used
that?
to, yeah.
Oh, okay, maybe that was it.
Maybe.
Never
I used
believe
to
things you
draw,
read. All right.
Tethered.
Unheaded, beheaded people.
Beheaded people.
Women.
This was, I think, the beginning of the beheaded stage. The home of anxiety and torture and thought. And so this is, some people see this as twins, but for me it's really about the duality of self and side note, tethered ball, which I think was outlawed for a certain period of time because it decapitated someone.
What?
You know? Yeah, you know tethered ball?
Yes.
Dangerous game.
I love that game.
Apparently, it got wound around someone's neck.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so that feeling, there it is.
Huh.
But I love those stories, you know, that just comes in. Like, oh my God. And it just sticks with me. I got to do something about that. Because maybe it didn't happen, you know? Maybe it's like the Pop Rocks and the cola, you know?
Somebody Google that. So this is a print you made with, this is ULE, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're coming. I don't know if they're here yet.
Yeah, they're not here yet. But this is I want to say this is the second etching I did.
Oh, wow.
And
And so when you're in the print shop with them, how much guidance are they giving you? What's the relationship like between you and the printers?
it's fantastic. I love working there.
Well, that's
They're
good.
super duper. Basically, it's wonderful because you're the only artist there when you're scheduled to be there, and you can have, they're just at your command or whatever. That doesn't sound right. But I'm just working, and then I just ask for their help, and they just give you space, and you know, it's more of a, when you're proofing, that's when it's a real collaboration. But when I'm drawing and things like that, I'm on my own. But they're always there for discussion, and it is a true collaboration. And it's really great because so much of it is so experimental, and it's, when you're working in a team with someone, it's like exciting to celebrate, you know, like it's just like magical, like you open it up and like, whoa, there's shadows, because that's, for me, this kind of working with etching, it was so mysterious, because it, for me, in my head, just like when I was working in cake toss, I really had to make a literal translation, like, why is this working like this? Because you have to preserve the white space and work backwards. And it just seemed backwards to me because of the, I don't know, so.
It's challenging.
Yeah, it's mysterious and very fickle, and you just go with it.
Did you arrive at the studio with that image on a drawing, or?
Yeah, this is based on a drawing,
Yeah.
but with no interior, so that was, and also, I think it's kind of funny, when I started working with etching, I got really interested in adding a light source. In all of my other paintings, there's never any light source, and I just really got into the idea of shadow when it came to etching.
Because etching does it so well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
So this is fascinating to me. Finally, you get to see fully the faces of some of the characters.
In a way.
In a way.
Yeah, yeah. This is 2011. I did a series of 19 portraits, and at first it was just a studio practice that I had a stack of paper, and so these are 10 by 13, I think, so the other faces on the paintings are about the size of my thumb, and that's my favorite part, and it's over very quickly because of the size. So I thought, why don't I change my movement and scale? And so this was a very kind of straight, I just had all the paper laid out, and I mixed up this flesh tone and just put blobs, very weird looking blobs on paper, and then found the face inside of them. So they're not based on anything, and that's why out of all these portraits, I mean, this is one of the strangest ones, because she has no structure. I mean, she has no jaw, and her shoulders are non-existent. But that's sort of what I am drawn to in outsider art. So it's something in the playfulness of this project that I just went with. I tried not to alter it too much into the structure. But the interesting thing about this paper that I worked on is called Japan paper, and it has a very polished surface, and I was able to manipulate the paint much differently than I am on hot press paper. So that was kind of a new thing.
Yeah, it was sort of a break.
But it is like meeting, I didn't tell you that. So.
Yes, you did tell me that.
It was interesting because I first did this for a show in Stockholm, and it was the first time that I was able to be surrounded by all of my work, and I had these 19 portraits up, and it felt like the employee of the month club or something. And I didn't know. I said, first I thought, oh, maybe they're like part of a sect, and they'd all have uniforms on or something. But then again, each one was so different that they spoke to me, and they wanted to be dressed differently. So it ended up like that. And then the hard thing was naming them. And I had my writer friend come over, and she said, oh, they look Hungarian. You know, she got into the backstory of it, and she sent me a list of names, and had them on Post-its, and I gave them all their certificates. So that was fun.
I only brought one, I'm sorry, there are more, obviously.
There's 19.
There are 19 more, yeah. But they're fascinating, just wonderful, crazy faces.
This is your, oh, it says, I didn't know, that's so sad. You guys know what the date is, and the title. Do you have the detail? Because I'll go, it's easier to talk about.
Yeah, there it is.
So these are also headless, lots of heads. And this is sort of based on reoccurring dream I had of, because there's little, you see spare eyeballs above the empty collar? They're like hanging like cherries, and there's some extra hands. And I had these dreams that, I think it's because I wear glasses, and when you wake up and you don't know where they are, it's sort of like you misplace your eyes. And so I've had these dreams, or one, I think it's because I rely so much on my hands. I took my hand off and put it in a little Ziploc, and I was on the beach and I buried it, and then I forgot where it was. And it was really a bad dream. But I've had it several times, and with the eyes too. And then but this was my headless phase anyway. So you were always on my mind. Actually, I really like that Willie Nelson song. But it's about the capacity of my memory. I have so many useless, very useless things in my mind. And facial recognition is one of them. It's kind of embarrassing. Or if I remember, some things I remember about people are a little too intimate that they think it's freaky, you know? So this is like faces from the past and that sort of thing.
Huh.
And some of them are what faces. And I think that faces from my past constantly enter my work too.
I mean, that's sort of where where you enter the soul, through the eyes, or, you know, and the idea of losing your eyeballs or your hand for a creator is probably the worst nightmare ever. Yeah. Can you talk, just before we're almost to the end, so what, can you talk a little bit about why watercolor and not other things, beyond the allergic reaction you had to oil paint? Is there more to it, or is it that simple?
Yeah, no, it was when I had a semester in Germany. When I was at Cooper Union, I went to Germany to Frankfurt for 1 year, and it was just a very convenient way to work as well. I switched over because I had allergic reaction to the oils, but I started working with casein and then the gouache, and at the time I was also very interested in Persian miniatures, and I realized that I really wanted to dive into the detail, and it wasn't about, I was, in my paintings I was always trying to escape mark making, and I think that comes with scale. If you're going to do something big, I don't know, maybe it was, and I also was really drawn to the fact that it was a matte surface and that the color is absorbed, the light is absorbed into it and not reflected. So all these things sort of combined together. And I also, another thing I feel comfortable with, I mean, it's very illustrative, and I am very drawn to books. So there's a marriage there, I think, too. And using that language, people enter it in a certain way, too, because they have a certain history with viewing that kind of work, too.
But these are sort of these moments suspended where you have no idea what's come before, what's going to happen later. I mean, they're these wonderful, you know, they're beyond illustration quite clearly, because they're so twisted in so many wonderful ways. All right, what else do we have? Oh, just a couple more recent ones.
It's appropriate for the printmaking. This is actually, I forgot the name of it. It's a Japanese ghost that, there's a really beautiful print by Hakusai. It's just one ghost with a very long neck, and I think maybe she's smoking a pipe or something. And in the Japanese tales, it's something about the wandering head at night causes all, it's a demon that causes very bad things to happen. And here they're helping out. It's really kind of, it's one of those boring, kind of simple, more simple ones.
Right, straightforward.
It's borrowed,
Yeah.
I feel.
And this is the last one.
This painting was a floating head for many, many years. It really was. It was so bizarre. And then came the apples and the pigs. Yeah, there's really not much. This is an exploration of, what do they call it, garnish?
Garnish.
It's like gluttony and, I don't know, it's a strange clearing in the forest, and are they going to eat these things? I don't know.
But the pigs have cute little vests on.
They do. Yeah, it's just a celebration of textiles, and maybe I don't know yet. You know, it's pretty recent.
Pretty fresh.
You know, that's also what happens too. Sometimes I truly don't know the stories. Maybe like in 3 years I'll be like, oh my God, the pigs are about that.
Right. That time I had a talk in Baltimore with a sinus infection.
Oh my God. No.
So what's next for you? Are there things coming up you can share with us?
I have a very bizarre, I am part of this, there's an upcoming show at Site Santa Fe where I'm doing a collaborative project with a musician and a hairstylist.
That sounds like fun.
Yes. Yeah, we're in the midst of it now, and it's very uncomfortable. It's an installation.
Which part's
With music.
uncomfortable? Which part's uncomfortable?
There's going to be a male voice.
What?
It's good. It's pushing all the. It's really making me uncomfortable, which is really important.
That's great.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's going to be lots of hair. That's why the hairdresser is involved. Lots of braids, and I'm excited because it's a collaboration. So I really don't know what comes next.
And the last question that always occurs to me is, what is there something about you or your work that people are misinterpreting, or we would be surprised by, or we don't get?
I always have to correct people, just people that contact me for interviews about writing. People are always saying that my work is based on fairy tales, which is not. And that kind of irks me sometimes. I think it's very shallow. And I don't know if it's because it's, I'm okay, I like fairy tales, but there in no way are these based on particular fairy tales. So that's a misconception that's always brought up again and again.
It is true. People do attach that to you.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to make that right to now. Everybody, moving forward. No more fairy tale talk.
But
I think
stories.
I used fairy tales on my label. I'm
You
so
did.
sorry.
Yeah, what to do? No, I'm okay with it.
Okay. I think because it's such an imaginary world that's sort of the first thing we all go to. I mean, this, we could as easily go to other places, but I think that's the first step. Yeah.
Well, I'm just here to acknowledge that they are not based on fairy tales.
Okay. All right. You heard it here.
Just
All right. Well, I think we're out of time. Thank you so much for coming. It was really a pleasure to have you. And thanks, everybody.